Hey, it's Jeremy here with Red Hawk Coaching and the Explode program. And the next thing we're going to look at is in G Suite is the Google Calendar. And we talked about in an earlier module about building a schedule and living by that schedule. So now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of how we take some of those things that we put on our one-page business plan and those things that we came up that are important to the acronym of life, those activities, those actions that need to take place every single day. And now we're going to go look at how do we add those to the calendar. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that I use utilizing Google Calendar. And so let's get started with this module right now.
Hey, it's Coach Jeremy here with the Explode program, and we're going to dive into the Google Calendar. And what I love about the Google Calendar is just like Google Contacts, just like Google Email, all those other programs that are in the cloud. You're able to access this from anywhere, including on your phone, which is probably one of the tools you're going to use most often. You can log in through your desktop. You can log in from a business center at a hotel. Wherever you can log into or have an internet connection, you now have access to your calendar. So one of the first things you want to take notice of is up at the top, the week at a glance. You can do day, week, month, year. I like being able to see what's happening in my week. The next thing is you want to go into your settings menu and just make sure that there's a few things that are set up properly. So if you click on settings, you'll see language and region. That's important. Time zone is absolutely important. Make sure you're in the right time zone, especially if you're going to do blocks or share a scheduling app or whatever. You want to make sure that the time zone is correct. You want to display the world clock. Event settings. Default duration is 60 minutes. So you can set it up to when you're creating a block, it'll automatically pick a certain amount of time. Of course, you can still go in and customize the length of that event. Inviting others to see a guest list. So if you're inviting multiple people, they can all see who's being invited to an event. You can turn that on, you can turn that off, whatever your preference is. Automatically add invitations. You can do that, desktop notifications, so that you're made aware of when something is coming up. Your view options, we can show weekends, show declined events, show the week numbers. You can display shorter events in the same size as 30-minute events, reduce the brightness of past events. So if it's already happened, it'll be dimmed out. Viewing calendars side by side in day view. When do you want to start your week? I start mine on Sundays. So you can really go in and customize the look of the calendar when you log in. Events from Gmail, automatically add events from Gmail to my calendar. So if there's an event you're being emailed requesting to be a part of another activity, that will automatically get added to your calendar. What days you're working. This doesn't mean you can't work Saturdays and Sundays, but you can enable working hours to let people know if they want to schedule that meeting with you. If it'll also warn them if they try to invite you outside of that time that you might not be available. Main location, work location, you can do that. I'm not exactly sure what the benefit of that is. And then keyboard settings, you want to enable the shortcuts if you know those. And then obviously any add-ons. So I use Zoom to conduct all my coaching meetings. So there's actually a plugin or an add-on that you can do where you can schedule the Zoom meeting right in the Google Calendar event. It makes things really, really easy. All right, the other thing that you want to look at is your settings with your calendar. You can have multiple calendars. I don't recommend having multiple calendars. I recommend having one, and we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes to scheduling events here shortly. So name your calendar, the time zone, make sure it's set up properly. This is one that access permissions, making sure who has access to your calendar. If you've got a G Suite and you've got a team, you can do that as well. And then sharing with specific people. So like I share with my coach, you can also customize what settings they have with your calendar. So I have it to where he can see all my events, see only my free or busy events. I'd have to make some changes, but I could actually give them the ability to manage changes to my events or make changes and manage sharing. So in this case, he can see all my events. Notifications, that's really important, especially if you're living in a time blocked world like I am, is having notifications set up. If you're a real estate agent and you've got a listing appointment, you might want more than 10 minutes because you might have some drive time to get there. So you can do minutes, you can do hours, days, weeks, whatever works for your business or for that particular situation. I highly recommend using notifications. It'll help you never be late to your next scheduled event. Other notifications, and again, a lot of things I don't use, but you can, like here, I've got emailing me the notifications as well as when they happen. If a guest responds to an event, it lets me know. If they cancel, it lets me know. So you can set it up and customize it. You can integrate your calendar. Like if you wanted to go embed your calendar inside of your website, maybe you want your customers and clients to see when you have your time available. I personally wouldn't do that. But it gives you the ability, if you want to embed your calendar, you can do so. All right, so let's go back to scheduling. And you'll see this is my calendar here. Up at the top are events or tasks that happen in a day. You've also got tasks out here to the side. You can add tasks if you like checklist. Yet a lot of that stuff will show up at the top, and also birthdays. If you're putting the birth date in the Google Contacts, Google Calendar will automatically pull that information in so that you know that on the 31st is Diane Files' birthday, Megan Melder's, so on and so forth. All right, in the scheduling, it's really simple to create a block. Now, I'm not going to get up at 4 a.m. on the 31st, but if I wanted to create an activity right here, I would just click on it, and it's going to open up and it's going to give me the opportunity to schedule something. So we're going to do explode example. I can manipulate the times in here if I don't want it to be an hour block. Remember, I had that as my default, but if I want to change that, I can do that in here. If I wanted it to be a repeat event, I can actually do that here as well. I could even do a custom if I only wanted to go to a certain time. I can add guests. So if I type in an email, they will now, when I save this, they're going to get an invite to that event. If you have G Suite, you automatically have Google Meet. And I think it's that $12 package, the business plan, where you get Google Meet for free. So Google Meet allows you to set up meetings to where you can meet in a secured place for up to 250 participants. I use Zoom. And so remember, we talked about the add-ons. I have the add-on for Zoom so that I can schedule the meeting right within the calendar block. So if I click on make it a Zoom meeting, I don't even have to go to Zoom. It automatically creates it for me. Again, notification, how much time do I want that? 10 minutes before I want to be notified. And then I can color code it. And I'll go through some of my decision-making process in color coding, but you can definitely pick colors to kind of, if you're more visual, to be able to determine what activities are maybe lead generation related, what are personal, so on and so forth. You're either going to be busy during this time, or sometimes I'll coach my people to include what I call free blocks. So these may be, scheduling 10 appointments throughout the week, and you're not actually scheduled, but they're spaces that are saved on your calendar. So you can schedule that and say that you're free during that time, so that if you're getting calendar invites from other people, it's not interfering or preventing them from utilizing that time. And then your default visibility, you can make those public or private. Down below, you have an area to include a description. You can include attachments, links. By creating the Zoom, it automatically creates all the information needed for that meeting. I don't have to do that now. And then I'm going to click on save. So if I'm emailing somebody outside of my organization, which is basically anybody outside of the domain redhawkcoaching.com, it's always going to pop up and ask me, am I sure I want to send this to guest? And I'm going to say send. and it's saying they're outside your organization. So it's basically saying, hey, I just want to make sure. And then you can say invite external guest. All right. So there's the event. If I were to go in and I wanted to edit, I could actually click on it. One of the things to note here is you can see that 2 guests are part of this appointment. Jeremy Williams, that's my personal email, has not accepted the invite at this time. So it says 1 yes attending, which is me, and then my guest is I'm still awaiting. So it's a great opportunity to know, okay, did they really get the calendar invite, or did they add it to their calendar? Just because it says one's awaiting doesn't mean they're not going to show up at that time, just FYI. If you want to edit, you can click on the little pencil up here and you can edit that event. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off my calendar. All right, so let's say you did have somebody that you had invited. You're always going to get this. Do you want to send a cancellation? And you can put in, a reason why you're canceling it. Maybe it's need to change the time. And then click on send. They'll get that message and it'll also cancel the appointment. Now, what could you use those for? You could set appointments with, let's say you're going on a listing presentation, you can send a calendar invite to your prospect and invite them to that so that they can then add it to their calendar. Just provide some accountability to make sure that they're going to be there at the time that you've scheduled. Using it with buyers, if you're going to meet up to go show homes, you could send them a calendar invite. There's a lot of different ways you can use the calendar invites, and it's really powerful because, again, it brings an accountability to the scheduling of not just yourself, but the scheduling of others. All right, so if you look at my calendar here, I do color code, so everything that's in purple is personal, so things that I do. So, going back to using the acronym L.I.F.E to schedule, making sure that I have my bedtime first, which is down here at the bottom. And then next would come my wake up time. And then, those things of improvement, those things related to fitness, those happen for me oftentimes in the morning. You can see, I've got the Peloton that I'm riding. Okay. And then the economic portion. So you can see in here, red are my coaching appointments. I use that color to stand out because to me, red means to stop. It's really important. And my coaching clients are super important to me. So I use the color red. Blue are calls, prospect calls, people that might be interested in coaching, or, people that I've lost touch with, maybe I want to reconnect with, or they're asking me maybe a few questions. It's kind of my free call or my business strategy calls. I'll put in this light blue. This pinkish color are things that I'm doing as far as tasks that need to get done. So going back to the L.I.F.E acronym, the economic part, this is the economic part of my business, doing the social media, doing my mailings, and increasing my database for my newsletter, working on the Explode program here that you are now benefiting from. So those things that have to happen every single day show up there. And then I've got things like I'm working on a book. So that's personal time to me. My coach is personal time to me. I have green, and that's to plan my next week. So I'm only planning about a week out at a time. Now, if it's an event, which I would call like a rock, something that is going to be on your calendar, and they're not going to come ask you what's a good time to meet up. That may be for the real estate agent, a team meeting or an event. Maybe it's a conference. They're not going to call and say, hey, would this time work for you? Those rocks, I might plan a lot further in advance. If I know those are coming, we typically know those are coming. I'm going to put those on there. All right. So, but for day-to-day stuff, I'm looking a week out at a time. That way I'm not having to change a lot of things on my calendar, and I can stick to my schedule. I've got a different color that's representative of my son, the activities that he does. And I've got a color for my daughter and the activities that she participates in. I come from a family. My wife and I both work full-time jobs. And so, being able to know where my kids are is pretty important. And so I use different colors to identify them and also know where I'm at. So what you'll see here is that I have not just my business stuff on the calendar, but my personal stuff. I don't have multiple calendars that I utilize because I want to see everything in a snapshot. I want to be able to look up at my calendar and know, okay, I've got to turn my business off. I've got to turn family time on, or I've got to get my workout in, or I need to slow down to make sure that I do eat lunch today. You see that I schedule my meals, and it's very purposeful. One, it gives me the opportunity to refresh. And as a real estate agent, you want to make sure you have time to refresh as well. And that doesn't mean it might not be a working lunch, but you definitely need to make sure that you're not missing your meals. I'm not a health expert by any means, yet I know it's really important to make sure that you're eating throughout the day to give you the fuel you need to be able to handle your business. And then you see in the evenings, there's one day that I had my Peloton in the evening this week, making sure we had dinner. One thing I'm really proud of in my world is that all four of us, my kids and my wife and I, it is very rare that we're not eating dinner together and talking about our days and sharing those events that have taken place. The only way that happens is you have to schedule it, and you have to look at what's going on, because we've got a lot of stuff that happens, especially in the evenings with our kids. Date night, making sure that date nights are on the calendar. It's one of those things that if you're not planning for it, it probably won't happen. And I'm guilty of that as well. So just making sure that if you have a significant other or spouse, making sure that you have time when it's just the two of you. You see on the weekend, I have dinner with some friends. I smoked a pork butt, and if you go earlier into the day, it says start pork butt on the Traeger. I have to plan those things. I know about how long that it takes, but if I don't have something that triggers me to say, hey, I need to start that now, we would have never eaten on time. I don't know if you've ever been to a cookout and you get there and you think it's going to be ready for lunch, and the next thing you know, it's like 2, 3, or 4 in the afternoon. You finally get to eat, and it's just it's a time management issue typically. And so, I know it's going to be a pound for every pound, about an hour for it to cook. So I can actually work backwards, put that into my schedule, and now make sure that we're going to eat on time. All right. So if we were to look out further into the weeks to come, you would see things like football games on my schedule, other things that, again, those are rocks, or things that I don't want to miss. Yet scheduling is very important. We talk about building a plan, creating that schedule, and then just following a schedule. What makes somebody successful, that has the same amount of time in their day, is how they're utilizing that time. And if you're not working in a calendar, you're not going to be able to be as productive and as efficient as you could be. And as your business grows, some of that can be leveraged as well. Yet still needs to be scheduled and on your schedule so that you can know what's going on throughout the day. If you've got a team that you're running, is knowing where those different people are in your team at all times so that you can support them in what they're working to achieve. I have not, in the 10 years that I have coached, I have not seen one person at a very high level not follow a schedule. I've seen a lot of people that haven't, and their business reflects that. So I'm going to encourage you. Google Calendar is a super powerful tool. You should be using it in your business. If you're not using Google, Outlook's a great calendar. There's other calendar programs out there. There's some CRMs that you might use that have maybe an integration of Google or Outlook, or they have their own calendar system. Whatever that is, use it and follow it. Now, here's one thing that makes me a little different than most is I really believe in having the digital calendar, because if you don't have the digital calendar and it's written out, there's a good chance that at some point you're going to lose your calendar. If I lost my phone, I could go buy a new phone today, log into my Google Calendar, and I have my schedule. I don't have to recreate it. Now, if you're a person that needs the paper and needs to be able to write it out, go for it. Just make sure you don't lose it. It's probably one of the most important tools in your business. And also make sure you buy a calendar that has 30-minute blocks. Do not buy a general calendar that has, just Monday the 31st and it's completely open and you just kind of write stuff in. Do it in 30-minute blocks. And you'll find you're going to be a lot more productive by doing that. So I'd like for you to work through this. You may even take a screenshot of this and go share it in our Explode Facebook group. I'd be interested to see, how your structured calendar looks, and you can even ask for advice once you post it in there of what others are doing that are maybe succeeding at a higher level than you currently, where you can get some advice and maybe go back and tweak your calendar to fit that. So I'm looking forward to see some of that interaction in the Explode group on Facebook. And if you've got any questions there, obviously post them. Either I or somebody in that group will get back to you pretty quickly. I trust in this process. Make sure that you commit to a schedule. And I think what you'll see is you're going to go a lot further and a lot faster. Build a plan, work the plan. Build a schedule, follow the schedule. Have a great day.